And then, of course, in the aftermath, you hear that Grinch is fired. But it's not just him, and we can get into X and O's and everything, but at some point, the players have to take accountability and take it over because they're the ones on there. And if there's not clear communication of what's expected, then you have to play the next guy. And with all the kids we got in the portal, all the 5 stars, 4 stars that we got down there, it's just disheartening to see the state of the team because, poor Caleb, it's been pressure every week for him, not just blitzes and the defense coming at him, but the pressure to carry this team for 2 years. And I think that's the culmination of what we kind of saw him, breaking down in the stands after. I just felt for him because there's nobody that puts it on the line like he does. And I just wonder why aren't more guys giving the kind of effort that he is,
The Seahawks linebacker, 3-time Pro Bowler, co-founder of Zone in CBD and 1937 Farms. Hell, he even just released a new beer called 51 Savage. Co-host of the Take 12 Seahawks podcast, Lofa Tatupu, an absolute legend. We hope you guys enjoy the show, enjoy the interview. Go Dogs, baby.
Yeah, I mean, we knew it was going to be a fight, despite how our season's gone. You guys are, riding high. Keep pulling it out, and good teams, they just find a way to win. So credit to UW. And we knew what was coming into town. And I was actually rather impressed, that well, I guess why would you try to pass? But I was worried about Udunze and the receivers, really, was my concern. Penix and them, because I really didn't know you guys had a rushing attack like that. And well, I come to find out, I go back and look at stats, and I think that was like Dylan's first 100-yard game or second 100-yard game, and he added another 156 on top of that first 100. So it was troubling to say the least from a Trojan perspective. Just that, and then of course, in the aftermath, you hear that Grinch is fired. But it's not just him, and we can get into X and O's and everything, but at some point, the players have to take accountability and take it over because they're the ones on there. And if there's not clear communication of what's expected, then you have to play the next guy. And with all the kids we got in the portal, all the 5 stars, 4 stars that we got down there, it's just disheartening to see the state of the team because, poor Caleb, it's been pressure every week for him, not just blitzes and the defense coming at him, but the pressure to carry this team for 2 years. And I think that's the culmination of what we kind of saw him, breaking down in the stands after. I just felt for him because there's nobody that puts it on the line like he does. And I just wonder why aren't more guys giving the kind of effort that he is, That was kind of the things that stood out to me most.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think you hit a couple high points that make a ton of sense. I mean, seeing Caleb on TV is one thing, but seeing him up close and personal, I mean, dude, he really is that special. And I'm pretty sure that kid could start at running back for
I've been saying it for 2 years now. If you moved Caleb to tailback, he would be a Heisman Trophy candidate tailback. He's 230 pounds. He's strong. His balance is unbelievable. The game, even when he takes off, it just moves so slow to him. Even that spin move, like everybody thought he was going out of bounds. He just nonchalantly tightrope the sideline and got another 4 or 5 yards. It was his athleticism and he's just got – that's what you really look for in a quarterback is just having a quick processor, not just to diagnose what the defense is doing, but, when he's out there and he's staying out of harm's way for the most part, he gets down when he knows he has nothing left. But if he sees an alley or a lane, he'll take it the distance.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you remember when the guys started coming into the NBA and they started doing the Euro step and like Manu Ginobili was the one who was really known for it. And it just looked so smooth, he was in transition, he just knew what he was doing, he didn't prepare for it, he just did it. And that's the way I watch Caleb play is it just comes so natural to him. The spin move, I think it was he put one of our DBs in that blender on that move. It wasn't even it's just innate in him. That's who he is. He plays. He has that street ball a little bit mentality, but then he comes street balls it up, locks his feet in, and throws a freaking 35-yard missile to the end of the end zone too. I mean, he's that good.
I mean, there's just so many performances, so many 4 or 5 touchdown games. I think he already has the record. He broke Leinart and Barkley's record. I think it was 11 or something like that. He broke it earlier in the season when he was only playing a half a game. And, but I don't know if anything's more impressive than his first ever start, which came at the rivalry game against Texas when he was at Oklahoma. And which is crazy because, he won the Heisman for us, right? And I'm pointing back to a game that he came in off the bench. They were down by like 3 scores, leads them back, and the rest of his history. He got the job and then transferred in and won the Heisman here. But just the poise. I mean, I think there's no one that's been hit or sacked more. There's nobody that's played through more than this guy. And for him to just have the resolve and just get back up, resiliency, just to keep going at it. I think I wouldn't be surprised if a decision is made to maybe not play the rest of the season. That's how talented he is. He's the first pick overall. That's who he is. I mean, I haven't seen Drake May play. I don't care about the other guys. That's how special this kid is.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of brought it up. Walking to the game, as we're tailgating, everyone, the mantra for the game kind of was like, who's the first team to 50? That's who's going to win it. And it's like, man, are these defenses really that bad on either side? And my whole mantra kind of was like, UW just needs 3 stops. I think we talked about that a little bit in our last podcast, our preview podcast. It was like, who can get 3 stops? And what's crazy is that's really what it ended up coming down to. Is like, I mean, you watched those, the team that at first half especially, it really mirrored itself. It was like touchdown, punt, and then 6 consecutive touchdowns, and then ZTF ends up getting that strip sack on Caleb.
That strip sack, was that right before the half?
Yeah, I think it's like 52 seconds or something like that. Yeah, something crazy.
And then you guys punched in or whatever. It's just like that. I mean, that's a killer right there. And so it's tough, when you're fighting, and there was a great play by the kid. But that's kind of what you risk when you extend the play like that. Caleb's done it. We've seen it. It's almost kind of like Russ when we had him with the Hawks. There's been too many rewards. It was worth the risk. And so it was tough to kind of, end the half on that. Kind of stole some momentum, whatever little bit we still had, because you guys were just starting to lean on the run game. And I knew it was I called it at halftime. I go, they're just going to run the ball, which we should. I think we were averaging about 15 a clip too, but or 11. I think Marshawn or Austin was averaging 11, but he only got 11 carries. And it's just like,
dude, he had 11 carries for 127.
So, I mean, it's just like things like that blow my mind, because then you look at the other side. You got Penix, you got 3 great receivers, but the run's working. And so just credit to UW, man, for sticking with it. And they really grinded it out. They wore us down. That's just really what happened.
Yeah, there was a stat that came out that in Dylan Johnson's runs, out of his 256 yards, dude, he had 199 yards out of those 256 before contact.
Yeah,
before contact.
Yeah. I mean, dude, if you watch that, man, and this is where we were driving back to LA Live, the LA Live after the game, and I literally said to my 3 buddies in the car, I said, "Hey, I know Alex Grinch and not Lane Kiffin, the head coach,
Lincoln,
Lincoln Riley. I know that their wives are good friends, and I go, but dude, I just can't watch that game and think that Alex Grinch is going to have a job by midday tomorrow." And he ended up getting fired. But I mean, we talk about this stuff, right? Lofa, like scheme, like what are they running? I mean, they just kept coming out with this wide 9 and then a 3 technique, leaving like 5-6 feet in between their 2 D linemen, and then they would walk Gentry. Yes. Yeah. And they would walk Gentry up. Yeah, they'd walk Gentry up, and like Gentry's a great linebacker. He's going to be a really freaking good player. And you told me that before the game. He ended up having that beautiful tip. Yeah, but it's like, dude, he's not your run stuffing. He's not your run stuffing.
No, but he is tough, and he is 6'6", so he can. But you're talking about a 3 and then a wide 9, you got like 2+ gaps there. And so, it doesn't matter. I don't know if you got Brian Urlacher, maybe you could do it, but it's it's a tall task. And it was tough sledding. And I don't understand how you don't adjust. Okay, they're creasing us inside. They're just splitting and going for, like you said, 8 to 10 yards before he even sees a defender that has a chance to get a hand on him. So not making that adjustment is tough. Another crucial play, I think it was like a long third down. You guys were kind of on the fringe area, probably around the 40, and you come out trips to the right, and you run the deep over, and we're clouded. We have a cloud corner. So the corner's rolled up, cover 2, and he just lets Odunze, the most dangerous guy, just run right around him outside. Doesn't funnel him to the safety because the safety is now stressed. He's got a guy running across the hash, one on the hash, and then Odunze running up the middle. And it's just like, you gotta. I don't understand how some of these 4 and 5 stars don't have that situational awareness. Where these are like high school techniques. I'm talking like, hey, you're clouded up, funnel him inside. If he goes outside, you're gonna have to run with him because it's too much stress on the safety. And it was like third and like it's either 2nd and 18 or 3rd and 18. It was wild, and I was like, we just gave that up to their best player. It's a cardinal sin to let their best player make.
Have they run that wide 9 much at all this year? Or was that kind of the first time where they kind of stuck to it within a game plan like that?
We honestly, to Grinch's credit, we've tried everything. And so, I mean, I think that kind of speaks to personnel as well, and where I want to see the kids take ownership and like, even like Noah's saying, it's like, yo, if you're doing all this stuff and no one has a real grasp for it, then you got to go back. Hey, you know what? We got speed everywhere. Then you're going to have to take a man. You take him. We're just going man up. And we're now we'll at least have some answers, right? But if everybody's blowing assignments, not just in the run game, in the pass, guys running wide ass open. Because I mean, Cal, you said you didn't know if he was going to get fired after last week. Cal hung 49 on us. Yeah. And I don't even know if they were completely healthy on offense. I think they had a couple guys out. And then their starting tailback, who had $150 in the first half, sat out of the second half, thank God. So it's just, I feel for Grinch, because at the end of the day, we're still talking about a human being. And
yeah, absolutely.
He knows football. So, like, you can't just put this on one person. As the coordinator, you're going to take the heat. But, I got to believe that either the guys haven't came together completely, with all the transfer portal. I think that takes an effect and a toll. I don't think most coaches, like look at Dabo Sweeney, he's having one of his rougher years, but he didn't take any portal kids for that reason. He said, we have a certain culture and a standard that we set, and we're going to bring these guys up with us along the way. And he might open the portal. There might be a couple this year, but he believes in developing players. And this is, unless you're Prime, who knows how to deal with personalities and also, knows how to teach these kids how to brand themselves and do it the right way, it's going to be tough for a lot of coaches, even the best like Lincoln.
Yeah, Lofa, I mean, this is something we talk about, starting, at the young age, going into the NFL, and you've brought it up multiple different times about 4 and 5 star players, and you got the Kalen, Bullocks, and you guys brought in, Bear Alexander, and, you talked about Gentry and Mason Cobb and all these players. The biggest question I have looking at USC is on the defensive side is, who is the leader?
I knew you were going there, and I couldn't tell you, man. For 2 years, the last 2 years, it was Shane Lee, the transfer from Alabama. Just a solid ball player. I like, he's on the details. He's making big plays. Tackett Curtis got thrown out for a legal hit earlier in the year. Shane Lee comes in, and he green dogs, which just means he had man coverage on the back. The back stayed in, protection conscious. And he just went right past the back and made a 13-yard tackle for loss, sack. And I was like, look, this is like the situational awareness. And he got taught that down, in Alabama. Like, because I don't see any of our other players doing it. Gentry was a leader. And, both of these guys are sitting to guys that, one, a 4-star or 5-star, Curtis 4 or 5 out of Louisiana, I think. And then Cobb came in from Oklahoma State, I believe. Cobb's been very productive, but I just want to see somebody step up and say, hey, fellas, this shit ain't right. Like, you take a couple extra steps instead of leaving your feet on the tackle. Because, I mean, that's kind of like what the question to me is. If we're not spending time on scheme, which it doesn't look like we are, can we at least get to the basic fundamentals of form-fitting a tackle, near foot, near shoulder, striking, running through the opponent? Like, that's day one shit. And so I think that's the bigger issue that I take issue with, more so than scheme and like, oh, he's not calling a good game. I just want to see like some fucking savages out there.
Yeah. I was surprised by just like how the defensive line got pushed around in general too.
Tell me you got a great offensive line, because that's the only thing that can give me hope.
Yeah. So hey, Lofa, let me tell you this, because man, dude, we always like talking like, hey, here's a name to remember, here's a kid to remember. Dude, remember this name, Parker Brailsford. He's a redshirt freshman. He's our center.
Damn.
Dude.
Okay.
I was shocked. Like, I was thinking, because it's Bear, man. Bear is a big time recruit. Came up through the Georgia. Yeah, he is. Came up through the Georgia ranks. Look at all the splash plays he's made. He's always commanding a double team. Man, yeah. I was shocked when because I was at the game, right? When I rewatched the film, I was shocked how often Scott Huff, our offensive line, and Grubb, our coordinator, said, we're going to go man on man on him.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Parker graded out and it had like an elite type game.
That's impressive.
Yeah,
because Bear's a real dude. I mean,
he is. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, wouldn't be surprised if someone paid him more to portal out. That's how impressive. That's how impressive he's been. But yeah, for the rest of it, I can't. We've had like 4 and 5 stars that came in and just haven't really lived up to the billing, right? I mean, yeah, they had great high school careers. I think that's kind of the tough thing I feel for kids, because even when I was there, we had a ton of All-Americans and everything, but every year we'd have a couple 5 stars come in and like they wouldn't see the field. They go in the tank because this is probably the first time they weren't playing. Like, it's a tough road, no matter where you come from and how many stars you got next to your name. There's always another guy that's hungry. I mean, I fucking came in there with 0. If they could have given me negative stars, I would have had negative stars.
I think that's why me and Lofa get along so well. We're just dogs, baby. So
they're donkeys.
That's right. Do you tell? I mean, just take me back really quick. Not just talking the game, but I mean, remember the first time you ever walked into that stadium, dude? Was it? I mean, the history of that place was crazy. You look around at all the Heisman Trophy winners. You look at around all the All-Americans. I mean, and then just like the beautiful, like old school architecture. It does kind of look like an LA, like obviously the Coliseum, but like that Roman Coliseum. It has that vibe, and man, it was just so cool. They light the torch at the fourth quarter. I mean, tell me a little about that. The first time you remember that.
Well, the Trojan walk, there's nothing like it. You're coming through, like everybody, they walk through, and they got all the fans lined up, and we walk right through the peristyle, that big arch.
Yep.
And then we walk down the steps, and then we huddle up together at the 50, and we just, kind of, hey, it's time to fucking go, fellas. Like, you know what we're here for. And I never lost in there, thank God.
In 2 years, never lost.
Yeah, no, I only lost one game on the road, triple overtime, to a guy by the name of Aaron Rodgers. He's pretty good, turns out. But yeah, it's historic, man. It's some of the biggest events have been there, and just I think the coolest thing for me when I was there, my first year I'd see the 74 plaque, and on the plaque in 36 with the big old afro was my dad. And so, and he blocked for some of the best, Charles White, Anthony Davis, Ricky Bell, some of the biggest names that ever went through there, right? And they were on top back then, and so it was cool. He won the 74 championship, and then I got a plaque next to him with the 2004 plaque. That's and awesome. I got thanks, man. I got to take my kids down there last year when I ran them up the tunnel, and the grandfather who they never met. I was like, hey, that's your grandfather right there, and that's me right there.
That's
man. That's awesome, man. I mean, Lofa, this is pretty cool. And you might not be aware, but we talked a lot about our fathers and like the impact they made in our lives and stuff. So ZTF, who made that strip sack, dude, he lost his father. He lost his father 1 week ago during the Stanford game.
Oh God.
Yeah, and
Damn,
he
I didn't
played.
know that.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I actually didn't know it either. I guess it was kind of reported, but I didn't. I somehow didn't pick up on that. And for him to have that type of game in the Coliseum, he was super emotional after the game. But it was pretty freaking cool just to see that.
Oh, I can't imagine. I mean, what a stud! Even just
Yeah,
to get back out there the next week and then have the performance he had. Man, that's incredible.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I think that goes to a little bit of like after the game they asked him like why do you why'd you play? There's many people who wouldn't have played. There's many people who would have just said like the emotions were too strong, and he kept just going back and reverting to like, I just want to play for my brothers, and I knew my dad would want me to play. And I think that kind of is a testament of kind of like what Coach DeBoer, Kalen DeBoer's kind of creating up at Washington.
Yeah, absolutely. Because everybody would have understood if he didn't make it to the game. Can't imagine the range of emotions he was going through, and to put it aside for a couple hours and just be there with his brothers. I think you would love to say, hey, that's what I would do. I would like to believe I would, but I not being faced with that situation, I don't know. And so I just tip my cap to that. I think that's a gutsy performance, and proud of that kid, man. That's incredible.
Yeah, what's kind of interesting about USC, man, is we're in the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 is stronger than hell this year. And I mean, dude, they go right into Autzen Stadium, Oregon. Man, I just kind of what you said about Caleb. I have a hard time believing. I mean, I get the business decision. I mean, I don't think anybody would fault him. I just don't know if I see him shutting it down just yet, because they don't completely control their own destiny, but they kind of do still. Like they can still win the Pac-12.
Oh no, absolutely. There's a lot to still play for. I mean, your brothers, as you mentioned, is the most important one, right? And he's a leader. So I mean, you wonder how NFL teams would look at that, right? But I mean, I don't think anybody would fault him, because we're all one injury away from not playing. And
you ain't lying.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't. Yeah, we've got our share of injuries, brother. But yeah, that's how it is. And so with your future kind of up in the balance, like you have to depend on other teams to drop a couple for you even to get into a bowl or something like that you want to go to, or because like playoffs, there's no three lost teams getting into that playoff. At least I don't believe it. And the pack is stronger than it's stronger than it's ever been. So they're sending us out the right way, boys. But yeah, it's just I really, it's tough, right? I don't know what I would do in this situation. And I would like to think I'd play, but again, so much has changed since the days that we played. And you kind of got to leave that old school, old man mentality. Like, no, I'm playing, because you've seen other kids go into the meaningless bowl game and get hurt. Jalen Smith, that changed. He's still playing because he's just a savage, but that changed his entire career. Because
that was like an Orange Bowl, right, or something like that.
Yeah. Orange Bowl or Fiesta. It was a big bowl, but it was just everybody would not have faulted him, and it was so early. It was even before NIL, where people were saying, and then I think maybe even like one of the Bosas might have sat out or something like that. Like, so players did start taking the business like approach, because at the end of the day, I mean, these kids, the dream is the NFL, and so you can't. It's their dream, man. I can't sit here and knock anybody for following their heart and their intuition, because God forbid something happens to them.